I didn't know she said that. All right. That's going to be fun. I apologize if that noise, if you can hear the background noise. That's why I work in an office. Let's see if I can get that any better. Nope, that's as good as I can get it. All right, well, we will go ahead and get started, and I will mute as soon as I possibly can to prevent any noises from interrupting us. So first, I just want to say, welcome to Virtual Coffee, our brown bag edition. We have Rafi with us here today. We are going to do a deep dive into note-taking. Pretty much, he is going to share everything with us that he's learned, that he's used in the past, and give us some pointers. Just a little bit of a reminder of what Virtual Coffee is. We are definitely a welcoming tech community. We're always allowing room for growth, hence the brown bags. We enjoy mentorship at all levels, and we definitely want to create meaningful opportunities to learn, to teach, to show leadership, and just generally contribute. We do have a code of conduct. We have a list of events. And if you want to know anything about who Virtual Coffee is, what we're about, what we're currently doing, virtualcoffee.io. Rafi, you are going to share basically taking notes with us today to kind of introduce Rafi for community members that may not have met Rafi. Rafi is a front-end developer from Bangalore who does backend sometimes and has recently started learning Rust. So hopefully there's going to be a brown bag in the future on Rust. That would be awesome. So go ahead whenever you're ready, Rafi.
Yep. Hi. I think you didn't enable screen sharing. So yeah, pretty much. Today it's actually going to be about note taking. Like first, let's talk about our working memory. Our brain can actually hold at most 3 to 5 chunks of information at a time, and when we have to deal with something more complex or have to remember something more, we usually write it down. And we can actually extend this idea and say that writing is actually thinking. So even the notes that we take are actually extension of our brain, and they literally hold our thoughts for a very long time. And usually, the usual ways we take notes, we use sticky notes like uh, notebooks and to-do lists, sometimes apps, and you even write at the back of a paper. But usually, the problem with these things is either the information gets lost in case of sticky notes or to-do lists, or they are actually either hard to discover. Like for example, if you write it in a notebook, put it in a specific category, and it actually you can't find it again if you need it. And the other issue is the notes we take in these type of the usual way. If they are removed from that particular context and placed in another context, uh, you can't actually know what they mean. Like if you come back probably a month later or even a year later, they basically lose the context that you had when you actually write the note, and they basically become siloed, and it's just a pile of they become like a pile of papers or pile of files sitting in your desktop. Or this is actually problematic. So one alternative way is so yeah, the categories are actually bad. The reason being that if you put something into a category, it's same for us humans too. If you put someone into a category, usually people don't belong in one specific category. People are multifaceted. So since Node are an extension of us, and you can't actually put them into a category too. Like if you put them into a category, let's say your work, or if you have some personal side project, stuff that you have there will bleed into other things. That's how things work. So yeah, categories are bad. And one alternative approach is Slipbox. So basically, if you think about how we think, um, let's say even about this brown bag, or even about like you're solving a particular problem, a particular programming problem or something. Usually, it's not, you won't just think about that particular programming problem or something. Like you will think about other things too. Like we tend to think in terms of connections, like not just in terms of specific categories. So Slipbox is nothing but nodes, a collection of nodes. They are not put into boxes, but uh, each node is connected to another node, and each node can actually stand independent of each other. Like if you take one node outside of a Slipbox, it is actually it'll have all the context there that is needed to understand what it means, and it is like it is kind of like web pages. Each web page is connected to each other, and everything has its own context. And of course, there are like a lot of free softwares to do Slipbox. Even if you wanted to do the manual way, you can still do it. You can have like a card with a small node there and like a reference number to other nodes. And softwares like Obsidian, even Zettelkasten, I can't even pronounce it properly, so sorry if I like mispronounce it. Zettelkasten, like there are like a couple of free softwares there, but this is the catch. Do we want to put everything in a Slipbox? Probably not. Uh, the reason being that let's say the notes that you take uh, for like a project uh, may actually most of them will get discarded after probably the project gets over. Probably some of them will get carried over, but like most of the stuff will be discarded. And like notes as in the term, the notes I'm using here also includes to-do lists and everything. So like the stuff that you do, like let's say when you read a book, you take a note. Probably most of it has probably will be discarded, and you will take like only small parts of it and like store it in a like a proper permanent note. So everything shouldn't go into a Slipbox. So there are like these types of notes, daily notes. Basically, these are notes that you take daily, and at the end of the day or at the end of the week, whenever you review, you'll just like discard it. And project notes, nothing but notes related to a particular project, and after they are over, you discard it. And references. So we read a lot, and sometimes we refer to other things. So we will need to store it. Like you usually store it as a bookmark or stuff like that. But that, if you actually think about it, it is also like a type of node, and that also can be stored separately. It doesn't need to go into a Slipbox like directly. And of course, the permanent node, which is like the final node that is there in the Slipbox. And so if you actually take the daily node, a daily node, like it can actually be in anything. It doesn't need to be in like in a software. It can be on a on a piece of paper, or like something at the end of the day that you discard. And probably you will have like you can have like some review period, either at the end of the week or at the end of the day, at which you actually go through the daily notes and filter them through. If you find stuff that is like very temporary, and of course you can discard it. And only the permanent stuff will go into the permanent notes. Because this is the project base notes. The context, the scope of the project base notes is it's the project itself. So yeah, why store references separately? There is a really nice application, an open source application called Zotero, uh, which is actually used a lot by people who actually do write papers. Uh, it allows you to go to any page or any web page or anywhere. You can store the references there, and in your permanent node, you can actually refer to the references. The reason you might want to store these references separately is because they might be like two separate nodes that you have. Let's say you're reading about I don't know, exponential growth, and like you're reading that in the context of like math, and then you're doing something uh, about complexity, like reading something about complexity. Both of them might actually refer to the same book or same I don't know, website or something, reference. That way, like you can actually use that to see that both of them like refer to the same thing and they actually have like a connection between them. So storing reference separately doesn't make sense. And even when you store reference separately, you can even scope this reference storage like either by a project, since like you will store references for that particular project, which of course will get discarded, probably like link to your Jira ticket or whatever. And even like daily notes can have like a specific scope that in the references section, like which actually gets discarded. And about the permanent note. So when at the end of the week or whenever you have the review period, you can actually go through all the daily notes and the project notes whenever the project is completed. So you can actually pick up only things that are valuable and put it in the permanent notes. So each node in the permanent node, as I said, it should be self-contained, and you should have like references to your reference from the Zotero in the permanent node. And you can also make sure that you write these permanent notes as if you're actually writing it to publish, like writing it to publish to a blog or something like that. The reason being that when you do that, you will actually see a lot of gaps in your knowledge, because like when we talk to ourselves, like we because of the Dunning-Kruger effect, like we will think as if like we know the stuff deeply, but even though we don't. But as you write it down, as you like try to write it as like an article, even though you will never publish it, you will see like a lot of gaps in the knowledge. And when you see those gaps in the knowledge, you can actually use it to like read more about it, take more notes about that particular topic, and they will start accumulating like in a particular way. And these notes, since all these notes, the permanent notes, have links to each other, like in a web page, at some point they will actually help you form like a proper argument. Let's say you want to decide something later. Uh, these will help you form like a proper argument on like why actually you need to do that. So, so this is what I call as the blank page monster. So usually, whenever you want to decide what you need to do on anything, any topic for the matter, I mean, unless you're doing something that is like way different, like out of your field, uh, most of the time we are actually not starting it from scratch. Even though we think we are, you're probably not. For example, I started recently learning Rust. But the thing is, a lot of stuff that I learned from other places, I'm pretty sure like it will have like context here. Uh, but when I started learning it like from scratch, there's no reference for me to look up. I might have done like, let's say, started learning Rust probably for a week and or probably for a month, and then I might have like just like gave up. And then after like probably 3 months or 4 months, decided to do this again, and I come back, and I don't have any context now. Like, so I have to start from scratch. Which is technically you're not starting from scratch. It's just that you don't have the context. Because of that, we usually are stuck with the problem of what you need to do, or like what you want to build, or what you want to write. Uh, like if you're publishing a blog, you are stuck with the problem of like I don't know what to write because I'm starting from scratch, because actually you're not. uh, Taking notes like this in a slip box, since they will allow you to form like proper ideas about stuff that you know and stuff that you don't know, it will show your knowledge gaps like clearly. You can actually decide on what you need, what you want to do based on the knowledge that you already have in your slip box. And if you find something that you don't know enough, you can probably like read more and start filling the gaps. So because of the way the slip box is organized, it is like neurons in the brain. it's each node is interconnected with each other, and they have specific, each node has its own context on its own, and you can take a node from one context and plug it in another context. It should make sense since each of them are like, separately. If in that case, as you keep accumulating more nodes, you're basically the number of neurons in like your nodes actually grows, and your slip box actually learns. Like you can start creating arguments on stuff that you want to speak about or stuff that you want to write about, and use that like to decide what you want to do next. Yeah, I guess that's it. Like there are a couple of references. So, Zotero, uh,
That was awesome. I wanted to take notes on taking notes, and I actually stopped myself because we're recording this, and I realized that I could rewatch this and take notes again. And Deborah Kay made the same comment here. So I think there's gonna be a lot of questions for this.
yeah. So there's like a couple of references here. I can't copy this. I didn't realize that. It's an image. Okay.
Awesome.
So yeah, Zotero. It's this is a blank. Of course, it doesn't have anything like discarded it. So this basically you can clip stuff, and you can actually, if you have like a they have like plugins for Chrome and Firefox and other browsers, and you can actually clip them and store it here. And there's like a couple of workflows even for Alfred, and even if you're using Windows, I think there's like a couple of autocomplete workflows that you can actually use. So whenever, it doesn't matter if you're like using like uh, any document that you're editing, like later on, you can actually use this as like a reference from here, like to there. Like you can reference your references in whatever thing you're writing, either a blog or note, and that way, like of course, it can also sync. That is also there. Yeah, yes, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you very, very, very much. I definitely have a few questions myself, but I want to open the floor for anyone here who might have a question. Please go ahead and unmute yourself, dump it in chat. Everyone loves the blank page monster. I'm gonna for a moment. Still kind of weird. Marie, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, Nick, maybe type your question and we'll read it for you. Go ahead, Marie. You're muted still.
Oh, I thought you said to type it. Yeah, my question, sorry. My question is, how do you take notes when you're in some sort of meeting and someone is talking quite fast? I know I miss some, like I'll go on to taking notes and then I'll miss their next sentence. Do you have any tips for taking notes when someone's like talking?
I mean, it depends on the software, I guess. Like if you're using Zoom, like this transcript, you can actually like enable the transcript, and you can like literally like pipe the transcript into like a text file. Of course, it won't be perfect, but it's still be there. But if there's, of course, you're in a physical place, there's like text to voice to text, or you can just record it if you wanted to.
Awesome. I never really thought about that, enabling a transcription just for everyone's benefit of note taking. That's a good idea. Meg, you've got your hand up next.
Yeah, I've tried that voice to text feature in Google Docs, and it's not so bad. Like when I've tried it during a Zoom meeting, and it's pretty good, except that you can't like edit it real time either, or else it'll start putting voice to text wherever you move the cursor. But my question was, and I was like kind of transitioning out of the car, so I might have missed it. Sorry if you covered this. So were you just showing, like, you're showing Zotero? Do you use Zotero and Obsidian together? Like,
Yes.
how do you have them work together?
So there's like a really nice plugin, like depending on whatever operating system you use, there's like a Zotero integration with anything. Like there's Zotero integration with Obsidian, Zotero integration with like Mac as a whole, Zotero integration with Windows and stuff like that. Zotero is basically just like a collection bin. It is just used to store references. Like
Mhm.
basically, like you store bookmarks in the browser, right? Like the problem with the browser bookmarks is like they just sit there. Like you can't reference it anywhere. Like later on, when you're, let's say, typing a message or like writing an email or even like taking a note, when you want to refer to the link that you just read it from, you can't actually do that. Like, I mean, unless you manually copy the link and paste it. But the problem is if you do that, like if there's like multiple things referring to the link, like you won't know that that is happening. So
Okay.
all the references, like stuff that you didn't write, like stuff that you read, just like took it from somewhere, there in Zotero, either like a file, link, or whatever. And then you actually take the actual node in Obsidian, your permanent node, which has references to other like permanent nodes, and also like links to your reference. Zotero, there's like a lot of
Oh my gosh. That's like super powered bookmark, browser bookmark.
yeah, and also it syncs. Like Zotero is not the only one that is doing that. There's like, of course, it is open source, but there's like a lot of other things like this, other
Mhm.
applications like this, and they also sync with your mobile app or like Mac, Windows.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you, so since you know there's other applications, I'm guessing you've tried them and you like Zotero the best.
The only reason I actually like started using Zotero is because I've seen like a couple of my friends use it. It's because they use it for writing the research papers. Since I saw them use it, I basically just like, yeah, let's use it. But there were a couple of other applications I tried, but this was the one that worked perfectly. Even in like I was using Linux before, so it worked perfectly there too. So
Oh, so you went from Linux to Mac and it was like no problem. So you're like, okay, cool.
that's the only reason.
Nice. Awesome.
Are there similar tools to Zotero that are popular right now that could achieve like the same end goal? That obviously there definitely needs to be like a personal fit between like devices, person, workflows, things like that. But what are the options for someone that's wanting to, have better note taking and keep references and keep context for things?
There's a difference between like, so you take your action node in like your Zettelkasten or Slipbox. Either it can be Obsidian or Roam Research, or even can be like a collection of mountain files that you have that just have links to other mountain files. And this one Zotero, it just has like stores the files and references. So other simple thing you can actually do is you can actually use your Dropbox. If you use the Dropbox or Dropbox paper, you can just like literally put the files there and just reference it here. So it's just a matter of personal preference in the end. Like the only reason like I didn't use Dropbox is because when I write an email, for example, I couldn't find anything that has like a proper integration that will like pop up like an auto completion with references, like auto completion with references that I've stored in there. I'm pretty sure there should be like I didn't like to deep dive into that.
Awesome. Kirk had a question in the chat, and I think that it's a really nice kind of like a follow-up to my question is, what do you do if you want to take notes, but you don't have access to like your usual software tools? How do you handle that?
Yeah, that comes into your daily notes, right? So daily notes, you can actually like write it wherever you want. It doesn't matter in the end, because like You can write it on a piece of paper. You can write it on a back of a napkin. Like, it doesn't matter. The reason being that at the end of the day, whenever you do your review, either at the end of the day or like if you have like a weekly review of notes, you basically go through that, and as long as you're able to get that note during that time, you get only the like actual information from that and just like discard the note. Since whenever you take the actual note, it'll be like a rough draft, right? And yeah, and there was like another thing that you can actually do with Obsidian, but like a lot. I have seen like a lot of people who publish papers do this. Like not a lot of people, but a few of them I've seen them do this. So what they do is they keep accumulating these notes in your Zettelkasten. It can be like a slip-on, like it can be like Obsidian or whatever. And at the end of the day, whenever you want to publish, let's say you want to publish like a paper about, I don't know, IPFS, for example. So since you have like notes about that, like since you've read more about that, and since that note has been accumulating for a while, what you can actually do is start with an argument, like form questions, stuff like that, and you will see like a lot of gaps in your notes, and you can keep building, like keep building notes, like to fill in those arguments. And at the end of the day, since all these notes are connected and they are in some order, you can literally take those notes, they are in an order for you, and you know the question to answer, and you can like literally convert them into a rough draft. Make sure they like are coherent. They mean something, like not like random jumps, and you can actually like literally publish it as like a paper since you have done the research for yourself.
Yeah. Do you recommend, and I do this on some things, especially topics that I might be wanting to write a paper about later, or something I'm researching for my own, education, like self-learning. Do you recommend writing notes like as though you were teaching somebody else? Which essentially for me is
The
always
permanent
like
notes.
over
Yeah. Yeah, the permanent notes basically. So since you're writing the permanent notes, like after whatever you do with the daily notes, like daily notes it doesn't even need to be like in a proper English. You can like just like put random symbols that nobody would understand. But when you review the notes and put in a permanent note, you should write it as if you're writing it to publish, even if you're never going to publish. The reason being that, like as I said before, you will find knowledge in your argument, like gaps. That will help you. That will help you, like find the gaps in and like keep filling it, and it will also like help you decide what you want to learn next, because that's usually people get stuck in that.
Awesome, thank you. Meg's requested that, after everyone has had a moment to ask a question, would you be willing to give us a small demo of some of the features that you find most helpful about Obsidian and or Zotero? You've given us a lot to really think about, and I think we'd really like to see what's working for you and where you kind of landed on.
And like, I don't want to put you on the spot either, so just keep
It's
that in
fine.
mind.
I love to talk about this all day. So yeah, as I said, like let's say, I mean this is the Zotero website. Like they have like a Chrome plugin which you can actually, let's say I want to store this somewhere. I have like a box here. This is not my usual node. This is like a new thing that is just created for this. So you can actually tag it. I don't know. And like this should go in here, like in your Zotero. Like it literally stores the link, and you can even upload a file and things like that here. That way it stores all the references, and I think they have like a sync feature, which you need to of course sign in. That happens. And let me see if I can actually open up a new vault without just a second. Sorry.
No worries. We appreciate this. You're giving us definitely a good demo, a personal walkthrough. So no,
Yeah.
we're here.
Just wanted to open up a new one
Without sharing any personal info.
yeah.
Totally get it.
Yes,
It's
just-
I know I'm putting you on the spot, so definitely don't apologize. I appreciate you doing this. I was at a talk one time where the presenter said that he accidentally shared out like pass keys one time. He's like, yeah, so now I unshare my screen when I bring that stuff up. So you're smart, Rafi.
yeah, done that too many times. So yeah, so like of course, like you can actually create a vault with whatever you want. Yep. And of course, this is like the plain Obsidian. So like basically what Obsidian does is it's actually really simple. Like whatever you do here, it's stored in a Markdown file. So if you have like a Python script or like a Node script, you can actually write some Python like Node script to crawl this Markdown file and do whatever you want, like display it however you want. And let's say I'm probably taking a note on note taking, and I have like a couple of points. And what you could actually do here, so I create another one. And usually I tend to keep like an index. I tend to name it home, or you can also name it 00, because like it'll show up first whenever you do this search for it. And what you can actually do is you can put your note here, and then you can refer to the home note from there. So that way, like there's always nodes are like interconnected, and there's no like if you have like some node that is like never connected, and it is like hanging around, it basically means that there is a knowledge gap there, and you can actually like use it to read more about it. So let's say I read, for example, about I don't know what do I read about Rust, for example. Could have like a link here. Sorry, I miss at least the wrong link. I didn't realize that. Yeah, now they are connected. So what you can actually do is use this to see like whatever you're learning is connected with another. And as I said before, like if you find like some node is like drifting away, and you can also use that, like for example, like let's say I'm learning about Rust, and let's say I'm also learning about compilers, for example. If there is no direct connection between Rust and compilers, or if the number of connections between Rust and compiler is like probably 50, like it takes you 50 hops to go from Rust to compiler, you can set a number, and you can actually use that to say that you actually don't know enough to connect, for example, compilers to Rust, like not directly at least. So that also helps you to like.
And is there,
Pardon?
Rafi, besides just like looking at that web, is there like a way that you tell, because you said like if it takes 15 hops, do you just tell by looking at that web, or can you actually
Yeah,
count
but
them
I'm
out?
pretty sure you can actually write like a small node script or like Python script or whatever to basically find the nearest node, like difference number of hops between this node and the other node, like basically the shortest path algorithm. You can do that.
Oh, cool. So you can like write scripts into this.
It's file rights. It's just markdown files that's sitting in your file system.
Nice, nice.
But like I'm just like making up the number 15 is probably not the right number. Like it's whatever that suits you. Like of course there will always be exceptions. There will always be nodes which you can never connect to another node directly. That is fine because like, but for some topics you will know that like this is probably related to that, and I don't know enough about this topic to connect to that directly at least. And as for Zotero integration, they have like a Zotero plugin. Okay. So basically what it does is you can type in the citation here and it'll give like an auto completion here. And as the other thing about Zotero is Zotero also has VS Code plugin. So if you're writing some notes in Zotero, I mean in your VS Code, you can actually use this to like refer to that common reference that you basically stored. Like you can use it to refer anywhere. Like it doesn't need to be in VS Code or like it can be anywhere.
That's awesome. And so I saw for that demo, you made a new vault.
Yeah.
How many vaults do you have? Like, how do you separate those out?
So I actually have like only one vault. The reason being that like, whatever I do should go into that vault. For other stuff, like for daily notes or like, the project notes, like usually I do use other software. The reason being that the people I work with, for example, for the project notes, they tend to use like, for example, some ticketing system. Like the people in the company as a whole use it. So you can actually take, I'm pretty sure all of them have like a note taking somewhere, at least they will have like a comment. You can actually use the comment to take notes. And as for like daily notes, like I do use to-do list, like since it also like serves as like a to-do list, but it's just a preference. You can have like multiple vaults, one for like daily notes and one for your permanent notes. The only thing is you need to make sure that your daily notes doesn't get links to permanent note. The reason you actually have to put them in like a separate bucket here is because your permanent node is like pristine and your daily node is like whatever you wrote at that time. You can have like a lot of garbage. It doesn't matter since it will get filtered on anyway.
Yeah, it's like the scribble, rough draft and doodling and yeah. I think what Becca put in chat is pretty interesting. I don't know, Sarah, if you were gonna hit on that.
I was actually about ready to say that I think a lot of us, the gears in our head are going and we're just like, oh, maybe I've been doing this wrong. Maybe this is, I'm slightly rethinking like my daily note taking and I back up, not to use the word daily, but like my systems to keep this, going in the right direction and not, not dropping things, not forgetting things. And Becca mentioned like, thinking too much in separate boxes. And Meg, when you asked like, how many vaults do you have? And I think the fact that I had multiple vaults in my head might not have been the right approach. It should be one. I've got one brain, it should be one box. And that's a bit much for me to chew on right now. I'm going to have to chew on that mentally a little bit longer. I did want to ask Rafi, how long have you used this system and how long did it take you to adopt this system? Was there a barrier to entry here?
The book that I'll probably drop the links in the description. The book, Taking Smart Notes. So like that one actually refers to this particular problem. That is people like tend to like whenever they start something, especially even note taking, for example, they tend to like they want to have it perfect. But that can't be, right? I mean, like everyone is human. Like you can't have like a perfect note anytime because like usually depending on the nature of your work, whatever you do, like of course it will have like a lot of garbage in addition to like actual proper notes. So usually you start with whatever you have right now, and then you slowly like start doing it. It took me like I guess it's like a year probably. Like there was like an on and off, but it depends. But you don't have to have like a perfect note anyways, like, to start with.
That's incredibly helpful, and knowing, especially for me, so I struggle with some feelings of perfectionism, and I struggle with like, I want to take everything right here and put it down on paper, and I need to capture everything. And I think I sometimes get hyper focused on that part as opposed to the fact that this is a tool to help me remember. And it's I get lost in what the focus really is. And so thank you. Thank you very, very, very much for this. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments, want to ask Rafi anything else? I know
I have a question. I'm getting my hair done. What are your favorite features in Obsidian, or like maybe what you find most useful? Because I think there's a lot of really cool stuff that they have. And so my thing is like, I want to do all of these things, which pretty much sets me up for failure. Sorry, children running.
So like basically the book even talks about this particular thing. So basically when people choose tools, usually they choose tools like you don't want to build tools like it's not like you choose Notion or Obsidian or for example any tool for the matter. You choose it because it fits your workflow. So you define your workflow, whatever that is, and then like figure out whatever the tools that matches it. And also like one thing that I actually like about Obsidian is since it's like files, like local files, it is offline. Like I can access it whenever I want. Like it'll always be there with me. Like it doesn't matter like if I don't have internet connection or like something else happens. And also it also means that I can actually write simple scripts, either Node or Python or whatever, basically to parse these files. Since they are Markdown files, and they do follow like some standard format that I like write notes in. And what I can actually do is I can use it to parse these files and do some interesting things. For example, I can write a script as like I was saying before, to see a number of connections between, for example, Rust and a compiler. Like I can input two specific topics and see like, is there enough I actually know to write a compiler in Rust? It's a question, but you can actually like write a script to do that, since you can actually know that you don't know enough about Rust to write a compiler, or you don't know enough about a compiler to write a Rust. Oh, sorry, enough about a compiler to write a compiler in Rust. So like you can do like all sort of these things, and since it's script, you don't have any API limitation. You can do whatever you want since it's just like files in your system. But other than that, I actually don't use any fancy features, like because if I use any fancy features, I'm pretty sure it will like get carried away on those features and like try to figure out the best optimal feature to use, and that's it. Like that's it. My whole probably my whole day or like what my whole week is to do.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, getting lost in the features and then hyper focusing on, are there more features? Is there a better feature? And forgetting it's the process of taking the notes and referencing the notes that is really the important part. And the feature is just, can it hold notes? Can I get my notes? As opposed to any other the bells and whistles that we might see in, I don't know, Notion, Evernote, Dropbox paper, all of this stuff. Oh, awesome. Anyone else have any thoughts about this? This has been amazing. This has very much been amazing. Rafi, would you be willing to answer questions for anyone else in the community who might watch this at a later point and have questions or maybe like to just, you know, ping your mind about something?
Yeah, and
Awesome.
like one thing that I read about somewhere, basically about note taking, is whenever you take notes, like the system that you have, whatever system that you have, like it needs to be like really, really simple and dumb. The reason being that like whenever you have like simple system, like you can build the complexity over it, like however it suits you. But if you have like a complex system, like it just kind of just ends up like you missing through those complexities just to figure out what you want to do. Yeah, like but yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you, Rafi. This was awesome. Everything I dreamed of.
Thank you very much for encouraging it, Meg, and thank you very much for, you know, basically raising the want for this, you know, which is why we do this. You know, there's a desire in the community to gain knowledge. You know, we talk and we communicate to one another, and someone says, hey, I can do that. And that's exactly what's happened. And I know that you're going to be empowering me to be a better note taker, and I need notes. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to head and, you know, we're coming to the end of our hour, which is typically what our brown bag time is. So I want to be very intentional and say a special, absolute thank you so much, Rafi, for this. It's amazing. Thank you very much for every one of our community members who always shows up and supports everyone. You know, doing a brown bag can be a scary situation for some individuals, but we're friends here. This is a community. We're all here to learn. We're all here to share knowledge, and we're all human. So whatever happens during a brown bag is great. The conversation is awesome, and I want to keep that going into Slack, so we can be intentional. You know, even just continuing the conversation in the brown bag channel. Rafi, if you wouldn't mind, would you link like Zotero and Obsidian just for individuals who may not be familiar with it, that they can find it at a later date? We're going to get this video up as soon as we can. Again, we're a community of volunteers, so there may be a slight delay in that, but that's okay. You know, we're all human. So I want to say thank you very much and wish everyone a happy, wonderful Friday. All right. See ya. Yes, your slides. Please share your slides too.
Yeah, let me do that.
Thanks again.